The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The webinar will begin shortly. Please remain on the line. The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Okay, we'd like to welcome everyone to the Board of Health meeting on March 8th. It is 6:04 p.m. We are meeting remotely, so if there are members of the public who are joining us and have questions or comments, they can click the hand icon, which will let us know that someone would like to speak, or you can type your questions into the question box. And let's see, so present we have Zach Cataldo, Sue Hanley, Joanne Belanger, Stephanie Granger, Michelle is trying to join, and Jeff Stevens and Ray Dick are here. And I guess we will begin with with open forum.
We have 3 attendees. We have Ellen Hardy. Hello, Ellen. Sarah, hello, Sarah, and WestfordCAT, Steve Edwards, and we are being broadcast live tonight as well. I did get that message.
So I don't think any of these attendees were for open forum.
We did have one attendee that registered for open forum, but I do not see him on the attendees list.
Okay. Should we move on then, or?
Let's see. Yeah, since we got our minutes after the packet went out, if you would like to look at them now, I have them. I think you can see them. If you would like to do these at a later date at the next meeting, we could do that as well. It is completely your call.
Looks like there's enough there. It would be easier to take a look at it and talk about it at our next meeting.
Okay. And I will pull the pack it up.
So if we're a few minutes ahead of time, then is that a problem? We would be moving on to an update on the COVID-19 vaccination timeline.
Yeah, we could certainly do that now, which I'm more than happy to do. As all of us know, we still have not received any vaccine at the local level to vaccinate people. We have once again, as even today, put in for 1,200 vaccines to hopefully vaccinate all our teachers and support staff of not only Westford Public Schools, but Neshoba Tech as well. We don't know if we will get those. We are going to make an assumption that we won't, because they have been turned down nearly every single other time, but we got to put in the request, so we did it anyway. Neshoba Tech continues to be ready and willing and able to be a great partner to Westford Public Schools as soon as we could get it. We even broached the idea of trying to do 9 school districts, because Neshoba Tech has 9 school districts within it, and there was some buy-in from all of the other school districts to do so. But that request that I made has not even been responded to yet at the state level. But we thought maybe there was a shot we could do that. As far as other people getting vaccinated, the CVS in Westford now is doing vaccinations. You need to log on. That particular site, like many of them, is already closed because whatever they have is already spoken for. The MassVac sites, including the one at 1001 Pawtucket Boulevard, are steadily pushing people through. People that need to get vaccine, I would recommend that just be patient, log on, wait for an appointment, and sooner or later you will get in, because they are vaccinating a fair amount of people throughout the Commonwealth right now. We know that. That's the best we can do locally at this point.
It sounds like,
go ahead.
As I say, it sounds like generally on Thursday is when the majority of the new vaccine slots open up at the MassVac sites and on the website.
That's when they've been opening up. That's when they've been adding new appointments. And they're fairly booked out. I know people are getting them 2 to 3 weeks down the road at this point, but if you can get one, that's good. Hopefully when you get to your appointment, they actually have vaccine that day and you can get vaccinated. So we just encourage people to keep looking at those sites. We have the links on the Westford Health Department website and on the Westford COVID-19 page. Just continue to keep trying. Additionally, Westford is working with another pharmacy to do our senior living people. We have 200 vaccines coming, and we're doing that in conjunction with Littleton and I believe it's Groton is the other town to get some of our senior housing people done. That's going to be happening on the 16th, which is good news that we're going to be able to get them done. And we're looking at hopefully with the homebound program getting people there done, but we're trying to figure out how many people are homebound and is it worth truly the effort to do maybe just a couple of people for the amount of work that you have to do, or are we better off getting them out of the house and getting them to a site? So that's kind of where we stand right now. I also am starting, I had an intern that we have right now, his name's Parker Smith, working on a survey. I'd like to put a survey out to all our residents and find out who actually has it and kind of see if we can create a snapshot of the town and see where they're at. We're not going to get everybody, but if we can get maybe a feel with just a short survey, did you get it? First one, second one, and which one? Maybe we can figure out where our town actually stands on the vaccination process.
That isn't something we can see in Prep Mod or in the MII.
I haven't seen an area where I can see Westford residents. If there is, Joanne, you might know something, but I don't.
Yeah, on the dashboard. So the first round, and I don't know if they'll start it next week, but this week it was just the COVID vaccination status for the whole Commonwealth, how many doses went out, how many first dose, second doses, the percentage, all of that. But they're supposed to start a breakdown. I don't know if they'll start by county or if they're going to go to the city level, but that's what, I'm anticipating is they'll, at some point they will break it down like they do the red, yellow, green, that how they broke the dashboard down that way. They're supposed to be doing that by city in town at some point soon, I hope.
Stephanie, can I just say one thing about the schools? Just so you know, Jeff, as well, that's great that you guys are looking to get vaccines, but we have actually had a lot of our teachers have been able to sign up, and this week they're starting to get vaccinated. One of my teachers, sent me her slip today. She got the Johnson & Johnson one. CVS seems to be the site, and we have some amazing parents that have been helping our teachers to get vaccinated, or to get appointments. So it is really amazing how many, it's hard for the teachers during the school day to get on and get an appointment. So we have an amazing group of parents that have said, give me their names, their dates, and all that, and they've been getting appointments for them. So, and the other little tip is I've talked to a few of my teachers who Saturday morning at 5:30, 6 in the morning, they got on and there were lots of appointments available. So it really is trying at off hours, and just keep trying. And again, that's all the information we can. And apparently there is something once you get in, and again, because I didn't have to do it, I don't know completely, but I think once you sign up, there are some, Joanne, maybe you know better, that if you get into the system that you might get a hit when there is an appointment available. So
it depends on which site you're talking about, but one thing I would say is try to get on either the site for the site or the mass site. Stay away from 211. There just seems to be problems there. I mean, there was in the beginning, there was the other day. And they just look for rolling appointments, so they may be making an appointment for somebody at Gillette, and they don't want to go to Gillette, I think. So the Lowell General site, they've had a lot of open appointments. The thing is, you have to know how to navigate their site. It's not that tricky once you know how to do it, but they have things set up by stations, and if you click on the first station, if there's no appointments, a lot of times people are like, oh, there's no appointments, but you have to go into each of those individual stations. And I know I've done it a couple times where 2 or 3 of the stations have no appointments, and then you open a couple others and there's tons of appointments. So they roll them into, they roll openings in as they get them. So you have to click on all, and there's like 19 of them or something, and look at all of them to look for open appointments. But one thing I don't know if anybody is watching or will watch, but please, 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 if you make an appointment and it's 3 weeks from now, and then you get on and you get one for tomorrow, cancel the other appointment. It's really important because you're taking a spot that somebody else might want. And then for, people that are doing these clinics, it's very complicated with the vials. And, you have to, once you puncture the vial, you have to use the vial. So, if it's Moderna and you stop on a vial and you've got 6 doses left, you have to find 6 more people. So those are those no-shows that either, can't come for whatever reason, or have made multiple appointments, because you can do that. There's nothing on the system that is going to stop multiple Joanne Belanders, because there could be. I may have another Joanne Belanger in the world. They're not going to say, oh, you already have an appointment. They're not going to stop you from making more than one appointment. So cancel all those extra appointments.
Thank you, Joanne. That's a good point.
I think my big thing.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is, you just have to be persistent. Like when I was trying to schedule for my mother, there were open appointments. I would click on it and then it would be full, but I just had to keep going back again and again. Once I got in, I just had to keep being persistent. I think because everybody's trying to book, there were appointments, but it was getting backed up. So be persistent.
One other thing, Stephanie, too, I was on a webinar about the new vaccine, the Johnson & Janssen, the J&J vaccine. And the question was asked, what is the best vaccine to get? And the answer is whichever one you can get into your arm. So I think we have to make sure we keep spreading that message. It doesn't, don't say, oh my God, I want to get Moderna or Pfizer. Whatever you can get is the best vaccine to get. It really is.
And the J&J vaccine, it does appear to be very effective at overall prevention and then certainly against severe disease. So it is a good vaccine. I would take it. Okay, so I guess, is that it then, Jeff?
That's all I have.
Okay. Are we ready then to move on to our request from Muffins on Main to suspend reporting requirements of water records and interior grease trap cleaning reports to the health department after 2 years of reporting?
Yeah, let me pull Ellen up. And let's see. Ellen, your mic is on.
Thank you very much.
I was trying hard to join the meeting, but hasn't been able to. She's having technical problems with computers.
Jeff, are you going to make a report first to the board, or do you want me to make the recommendation for Muffins on Main in our request?
Well, actually, I will do it. I'll start it for you and you can add what you need to. So
Okay.
Muffins on Main, when they opened up, did not need an exterior grease trap because the board decided that the operation at the time didn't necessarily require one, but there were several requirements that the board did have, which included making sure that they were reporting their water usage and their interior grease trap numbers. Ellen and Muffins on Main have faithfully put those numbers in on a regular basis to us. They've talked to us every single time that they've had that service done. It's been 4 years. We have not seen any issues or even an excess amount of grease for the operation that they're currently doing. And when we discussed this 4 years ago, there was, the board did recommend that she could come back, and if there was no need to report this information, we could drop that requirement. At this point, based off of the usage, which has been very consistent, I don't see a need to continue reporting that information. It would be my recommendation that we allow Ellen to cease from reporting that information. And Ellen, I'll let you add anything else to that you would like.
Thank you, Jeff. I'm here in my capacity as the owner of the building. Pam owns the business. And I do want to make it very clear, we will continue to have the grease trap pumped 4 times a year, as we do anyway. All we're asking is that those records not have to be sent to your attention from Aldrain. And we still get the quarterly reports from the water department. So on our end, we will be just as cautious. The only thing we're asking is that we not have to submit those to your office, because there have been no changes in the 4 years the shop has been open. So we think we've proven the point, and you know what Muffins on Main consumes in terms of water usage. So thank you so much for considering this.
Thank you, Ellen. Did anybody have any questions for Ellen or Jeff?
No, I just have a comment. It was so good to see Muffins on Main on Chronicle. So good job, Ellen.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was really fun to do.
That was really fun.
Love Winnie the Pooh tree. So that was really a great day.
You've had a wonderful business, Ellen, and I know we are definitely people that go there often. So it's been a great addition to Westford, without a doubt.
I appreciate that, Sue. Thank you.
I'd also like to note that Michelle Petoniak Crawford has been able to join us now. Welcome, Michelle. Okay, so nobody has any other comments or questions? And Jeff, you said that you recommended that they be able to dispense with the reporting. Is that correct?
Yes, I don't see any need to at this point continue with it. I think they've shown that their facility is not creating a large amount of grease, and their water usage has been fairly consistent.
Do we probably need to make a motion? Is there somebody who'd like to make this motion?
I'll make the
Joanne?
motion. Oh, beat you, Zach. Zach, you can second.
There's no further discussion. Zach, would you like to say, or were you seconding?
I'll second, yep.
Okay. Then all in favor of allowing Muffins on Main to suspend their reporting requirements for their.
Aye.
Yes. Say
Aye.
aye. Okay, motion passes unanimously. Was
Thank
that-
you all so very much for your support.
Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you.
Good night.
Okay, we're ahead of schedule, but do you think we can move on with the variance request from Great Road Nutrition, Jeff?
Ray, do you know if Rita was coming on, or?
Yep, so Rita should be on. I think I see her waiting in the attendee box.
Yep, she's there.
Okay. So the next item is a variance request from Great Road Nutrition to waive the requirement for a grease trap at 132 Littleton Road.
All right, Rita, I have your mic unmuted, and if you want to give your presentation, that would be great.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Fantastic. So thank you so much for time on your agenda tonight. My name's Rita Biagioni, and I'm coming before you tonight to ask for a variance for an external grease trap at 142 Littleton Road. We are looking at opening up a protein shake and energy tea establishment. We have a similar facility in Littleton, Mass. And I don't know how much information you had a chance to look at before this evening, but in order to prepare our drinks, it's literally powder, water, and ice. And it is going to be a to-go operation. There's no indoor seating. There's no indoor dining. It's going to be to-go only. So it's dry product, powder, and water. There's no addition of milk or fruit or, anything added to the drinks. So we're requesting that the internal grease trap, which is required, would be sufficient, and a variance for the external grease trap. The landlord of the facility is aware of what we're doing, the product that we're using. It is on a private septic. And as I mentioned, we have an identical facility in Littleton. And we found that with the internal grease trap, it is sufficient to, capture anything we need to. We've been open in Littleton now for 10 months and just had the grease trap clean just to see kind of in 10 months what we've accumulated, and it was less than 2 inches of, I forget the acronym, FOG, fats, oils, and grease. And so we're looking at asking for that variance, and wanted to see if you guys had any questions or needed any additional information from us.
Thank you. Sue?
Rita, I just had a question. Where are you guys located, number one, in Littleton, and where are you going in Westford?
Sorry, I didn't mention that, Sue. In Littleton, we're at 675 Great Road, which is actually Route 119.
Okay.
between, if you will, like the point and the agway. So it's almost to Groton, but not quite. Like our landlord my landlord has a pink pool slide on top of the building. If anyone knows where Littleton Pool
Oh, yeah.
Plaza.
Okay.
And in Westford, 142 Littleton Road is currently some of the other tenants in there are Soul Kitchen.
Oh, okay.
Their store's right across from what's that? Chili's.
Chili's. Okay. Yeah. Oh, it sounds wonderful, Rita.
Well, thank you, Sue.
Jeff and Ray, do you have any thoughts on this?
I can tell you this, that obviously, anytime we don't require somebody to have a grease trap, we're fearful of setting a precedent, and that's always been a concern of ours. I did reach out to Claire Golden at DEP regarding this particular operation, and because a grease trap is required by DEP regs, we needed to make sure that local boards of health could actually vary this. Because it is not on a groundwater discharge permit, we do have the ability to vary this particular portion of the regulation. And given the operation, Claire felt that it was reasonable as long as we were meeting, we were getting any requirements that we would want locally with any reporting such as we were doing with Muffins on Main. Ray, do you have anything you want to add?
No, I agree. I agree 100%. We've discussed it in the office. We've discussed it with DEP, and I think it's fair. Looking at the product, it's called Herbalife, and it's a dry mix that they add water to. So, yeah, very comfortable with approving it. Certainly, we could do something like we did with Ellen. We check the grease trap invoices just so you're aware when we go in and do inspections twice a year, but we could certainly ask her to supply both the water records and grease trap requirements for 4 times a year as well.
If, I guess my question, I'm sorry, Rita, was if you'd only had it checked after 10 months, is that normal then, Ray? Or it sounds like we were having Muffins on May doing this more often.
So it sounds like Rita has been in the Littleton establishment for 10 months. As far as Muffins on Main, when anyone has an internal grease trap, they are required by law, the food code, to have that grease trap emptied 4 times a year, or when it's at least a quarter full. So every time Muffins on Main had their grease trap emptied, they would send us those invoices, and we also check them twice a year when we're on their routine food inspection.
And so is 2 inches, she mentioned 2 inches. How does that?
That's good.
Okay.
2 inches isn't that much.
Does anyone else have questions for Rita or Jeff? Or
I think, am I muted? No, I'm on. You know, the difference between Muffins on Main and this establishment, just from the offerings, like Muffins on Main was doing baking. There was a little bit of an issue, or we were concerned with the baking, you know, was whether there'd be, you know, butter or other grease issues. Where this is simply, you know, a drink with water. I don't know that there's much to it. There shouldn't be anything. I mean, you know, the only thing would be to make sure that that's all, you know, if there's going to be an expansion, maybe, of the menu, they, you know, that they would need to come back, even if it was just another drink, just so that we know that there's, you know, a change in the menu. But I don't see where it's going to, this particular menu is going to have any issues with grease.
I agree.
so do we feel that we need to ask for the reporting?
I do, because there's a soy dairy portion to the dry product itself. So the powder does have some soy and milk in it. We feel the internal grease trap will be sufficient. It's really up to you. Like I said, we'll check it twice a year as is.
So Ray, what would you then recommend? Like, so we had muffins on Main, you said reporting is it any time the trap is that what we're saying is any time the trap is cleaned, we'd like them to report?
Yeah, if we want to take a peek at it for the first year, if that makes you feel more comfortable, like we did with muffins, and then maybe have them come back, or we can report back in a year if you're comfortable. It's whatever you're comfortable with. Like I said, there is a soy dairy component to the powder, so we just wanted to make sure you're comfortable.
All right. So Rita, is that something that you would be willing to do, is to reports anytime the trap is cleaned? Is that what that's what we,
And if that's what you're proposing, absolutely. And then the water usage, and we can talk offline about that, but is that from the water bill? I mean, just so I'm reporting the right thing. So whatever you guys need, we can provide for sure.
So what we would typically look for is the water. I don't know how that water is broken down in that unit, but I'm assuming you've got your own water meter for your use. What we would look for is what your normal water usage out of your facility would be, to make sure that you're staying under what the capacity of that system is.
Okay. And I had previously submitted to Ray the as-built plan on the system from the landlord. So we have that. So the water usage, and then every time we have it clean, like the report that the company gives, is that what you guys would be looking for?
Yes.
Okay. Can do.
do we need to then make a motion for accepting the variance with the condition that they provide for a year the reports on water usage and grease trap cleaning, and then in a year we'd revisit this potentially? They could come back to have it revisited?
And I would ask to have, just if there was an expansion of the menu, that we notify.
Okay, so in addition, please notify with any expansion to the menu. So is there anybody who
Okay, I'll make that motion, whatever you said. I'm not going to repeat it all.
I'll second.
Thank you. All right, I'll vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes unanimously. Thank
Thank
you, Rita.
Hi, Rita.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Thank you.
So the next thing on the agenda then, again, we're a little ahead. Jeff, is that an issue, do you think, for this?
We should probably wait just a hair longer.
Yeah, so do we want to discuss new business out of order?
Yeah, we can do that. Pull up the agenda. And let's see. So new business at this point was the board, well, the department had its first budget hearing. We had our first one with Finance Committee and the Select Board. There were some cuts made to our budget. They were significant to us, but overall, in the entire budget, fairly small. The cuts that we saw affect what we're able to do with things like getting to meetings and conferences. And that was cut throughout the town in many spots, mainly because nobody's going anywhere and the town is looking for a fair amount of money. I'm hoping that that will be restored. We've been very fortunate in our department where people like Ray and I have sat on committees and we've been managed to go to a lot of things for free. But that, of course, is something that's very finite, isn't going to last forever. And I do have an entire department to think about, that we're going to need to make sure people can keep their credentials, because everybody is so very well credentialed in our department. We're looking to still fight to get Gail full time. We had some good news that the town manager is willing to make sure that Gail is getting her full benefits, which I had a conversation with her. which she's going to get 100% of those. And as long as CARES Act money is holding out, the town manager would like to make sure that we're using the free money to pay her the other 20% of her salary that we're looking to get. Currently, she's at 0.8 full-time equivalent, and CARES Act money is getting her to that 1.0 full-time equivalent. So overall, I think it's going to be a tougher year for the town, but I think we survived very well. And I felt like we're not in a too bad a position. I'm kind of glad we're in public health right now and not in maybe other departments that might be seeing a little more cuts. One thing that I did hear, which was great, is we had one finance committee member that is very boisterous about the fact that we don't have a substance abuse prevention person and is continuing to try to push for that, which I was very happy to hear.
Yeah, excellent.
So I didn't even need to bring that up. It was brought right out. So there are people that are very concerned about that.
Great.
Currently, that's where we are at. I'm comfortable with it, and it doesn't appear that we'll see any other cuts at this point, but they're not done yet and it's not voted on. So we have to just hang on for that. And maybe there'll be people that are looking for things for us to do at town meeting. So you never know. That's kind of my budget report right now. And as far as our current fiscal year budget, we're cruising along. We have some things that we're trying to get done. And we're being as fiscally responsible as we can while making sure we get anything we need for the department.
Okay,
That's what I have.
thanks, Jeff. Go ahead.
There's one other piece of information that's in your packet we could probably pull out now while we have a couple of minutes. At the end of your packet, you did see that there were a couple of applications for places that wanted to increase their bedroom size. I did talk to Joanne today a little bit on that, and Joanne, you indicated you'd like to see what types of IA systems they actually are, and to make sure that if there's an O&M plan with them, that's listed on the report. So
Yeah,
What is IA and what's OM?
so the innovative technologies and the operation and maintenance plans. So I did see on, I think it was only just one, maybe, that, oh, there's two with IAs. Yeah, there was two applications, but one with an IA, yeah. But it didn't, I just was thinking that certain IAs have maintenance issues, or they're designed for, in a specific way, whether it's, even if I don't know if there's a question on there about in a nitrogen sensitive area, or if they're using borrowed space. So I know this is, we're kind of tweaking it as we go, which is good, but that's just one thing that I don't know if we've seen one before and I just didn't catch it, but just curious, so that if you could add that to the, either onto the form, or, some way to explain which IA it is, and, how it would be affected, if it would be affected in any way.
So where is that showing up on the form, or where are we?
I have to go and look.
So we can add that to the form. Certainly, that's not a real big thing to add. But I think it's also important for everyone to know that when any of these systems were designed, that IA technology had to already be approved with its O&M plan already. And the one thing that this application that people are looking for is doing is, so people understand what we're talking about in the audience, if you have a system that's designed at a 3-bedroom house, and in the past that required it to be 450 gallons per day because we had a requirement of 150 gallons per bedroom, we have since relaxed that back to the state requirement of 110 gallons per day, which now makes that system possibly eligible for a 4-bedroom house because it's of the size of it. So any of those technologies would have to already be in place prior to that system being approved. But I certainly don't think it's a big deal to add that to the application, just so it's more front and center for people. Probably is a good, go ahead.
No, sure, I'm happy to. And just so that you're aware, not only do we look at the system, for instance, in this case, it was a Presby system back in 2014, but we checked to see if there was a deed disclosure, any O&M agreements, which are maintenance agreements. And in this particular case, they're filing a deed restriction. There was no deed disclosure, but they are going to file a deed restriction because of their building permit. So not only will everything be noted, but it will be filed at the Registry of Deeds. So we do look to see if it's an IA. We do make sure that, for instance, the other one that was the other address that was not an innovative technology, they didn't have a reserve area spec, and that's part of the policy. So they had to hire an engineer. They had to have someone go out and do some test holes, put a reserve area in, and then we were able to approve this project, this particular application. So we do look at that, but I'm happy to put that on for you.
And the deed restriction would be to say that no more bedrooms could be added, or?
Correct. So what it does is it just puts it on the Registry of Deeds that just states this is the maximum now, and you know, unless they buy more land or something in the future and they decide to build a bigger system, but they maxed out.
Okay.
Okay. But happy to add that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, it is now time. I guess we can begin our public hearing.
Yes, we are on time.
All right, so we are now beginning a public hearing regarding the Westford smoke-free workplace regulation and the Westford tobacco regulation, followed by a vote to accept the changes and set an effective date. This was posted in the Lowell Sun on February 22nd, 2021 and March 1st, 2021.
Yep, and I'll just pull up. Here is the classified ads that were in, so people can see them, which they haven't sent me a bill for yet, but they were in the paper. And the regulation. Share my screen. Can people see actually my screen on that?
We see your emails.
That's actually not mine. I'm not sure whose that is.
Looks like yours. Oh, it's Sarah's screen.
So my screen. Okay, there we go. I don't know how I did that. All right. So we have gone through this regulation several times. We've had a lot of looks at it. We've made some local changes. Sarah, are you there? And does anybody have any questions? I think all of our language has been gone through. Sarah, do you have anything that you want to add to this?
I am here, and hopefully, can folks hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
That's good. Just that there were a few things that I'm not sure there are a few things that definitely aren't in our sample, which is what we started with. I don't know if they were things that KP Law added in, or I'm just not sure, and I hadn't seen the final draft before tonight. So in the enforcement section, which is on page 12, section S, number 2 and number 3. I don't know whether that is KP Law language, Jeff, do you know? Because
Yeah,
that's
I
not
think
ours.
everything that they changed was KP Law language. So they came in and they made their changes, and that's what they were approving.
Okay,
No,
so, and then, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so whatever I had, I left from what KP Law because that's what they had approved.
Yeah, I don't know, I guess, I don't remember seeing this in their edits, but I know that their edits did go through DJ Wilson, and so if it was in their original edits, then I guess it is fine, but number 3, it talks about first offense. Well, the board may use the following guidelines when considering disciplinary action. First offense, a written warning. I'm assuming that that means written warning along with a fine. But I think it's kind of, strange to issue a warning with a fine. If there's a sale to a minor, you can't issue a written warning. The state law is very clear and says that you have to issue, if it's the first sale, you have to issue $1,000 fine. If it's the second sale, you would issue a $2,000 fine, and you could have the permit suspension of 7 days. If it's the third sale, it's a $5,000 fine and the permit suspension of 30 days. So I think we've kind of lost that language in there, and just looking through it quickly, I didn't see it anywhere else. So I'm kind of concerned about that. And then if you flip from the bottom of page 12 there to the top of page 13, it says the penalty guidelines are only a guide. The board may use its discretion in determining whether the facts surrounding a violation warrant a penalty which is more lenient or more severe than that suggested by the guidelines. And I'm not so sure on that. I mean, generally, we talk about pretty consistent fines and permit suspensions so that one store can't come back and say that the board treated him or her any differently than they've treated another vendor. So, so those sections, again, I'm
Can I just,
thought that, yeah, I go ahead.
in section T, non-criminal disposition, doesn't it cover the fines there? I think the section 3 is just referring to permits.
Non-criminal disposition can only be used up to $300. So if there was a violation of a local regulation that's not a state law, like your cigar packaging part of this, where you've set the cigar price at $2.50. Let's say a vendor sold a cigar for 89 cents. That's a violation of that, and they can be fined through the use of non-criminal disposition, either $100, $200, or $300, depending on which offense it is. That kind of brings in my next concern that the sample regulation had kind of a two-tiered system of fining, and that's not included in here. But that explained what types of violations would be subject to a state fine of 1,000, 2,000, 5,000, and which violations would be subject to a non-criminal disposition fine of 100, 200, 300.
I thought we had all of these in here. Did it come out?
They were also
Law firm?
So I'm actually looking at Greg Corbo's changes right now, and it looks, if I'm reading this right, he's got a lot of stuff lined out, which was when I accept those changes. It looks like this is what I'm getting, what we have now.
Did he line out the chart of the two different types of fining? Because we're including that in any regulations that we're revising at this point.
It
Are they
looks
aware
like
of the current regulations that the state has? Why
It
would
actually
they,
looks like it's lined out in my copy.
why would he do that? Is he not aware of the current regulations?
Yeah, and I didn't notice that, but so I have seen situations where boards have voted on a regulation and sort of amended it right at the hearing. So if that's something that you want to add in, that can be done. If it's something that you want to go back to KP Law and consult with them again and see if there was an error on their part, an error on our part, whatever, the hearing can be held until the next Board of Health meeting.
So it has the non-criminal disposition fines under section 5. But what it doesn't show now is the state requirements.
So there is, in number 7, in the original version in section A, which has been lined out, it shows policy subject to state fines and laws, and then it says policy subject to regulation fines, because we have a 2-tiered system, one of which is our local reg, and the other part is our the state requirements. And as I'm looking at Greg Corbo's on my other screen, it's pretty clear that he did line out all of this stuff. So what I have is what he presented to us.
Does he have an explanation why he lined it out, Jeff?
He's got notes in here, but there's lots of notes. I mean, it looks like it was just rewritten to what he was looking for, because he made these edits. I know the exact date and time, 1/25/21 at 3:49 in the afternoon.
And I'm concerned that there is no mention anywhere about the new state fines and what those fines cover. And I think without that chart, it's confusing for retailers. So they don't know, what, if there is a violation, what sort of fine are they responsible for?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's pretty clear that's what he took out. So I guess as the board,
I think we have a problem.
I think we have a big problem.
I can go back to Greg Corbo with it and say you're concerned about this.
I think we should.
Well, and
Yeah.
I mean, I would be blatant and ask him, are you aware of the new regulations, and why would you eliminate that fine structure from our?
I'd be happy to talk with him, or, probably even more impactful, DJ Wilson would be happy to talk to him, because I'm not an attorney and they tend to talk to each other better. But DJ would be happy to talk to him to answer any questions he may have, or explain any justification for why we included this kind of 2-column chart to begin with, and what it means for retailers.
It could be referenced somewhere, but it's not spelled out, and that just makes it very, very confusing.
But
Well,
if the last time he looked at it was in January, Jeff, you said 1/25?
Yeah, the 25th of January is when it was done.
Okay. I mean, is he up to date with the regulations, as Stephanie said,
Yeah, but they were in effect then.
It's changed from the end of January to now.
No.
No, the state regulations were passed a year ago and took effect June of 2020.
Yeah.
I just don't understand why he crossed it all out and didn't have a I don't.
Yeah, I don't either, but it's
I mean, if
pretty
he
clear.
had a good explanation for it, he should have provided it, because that's a huge piece and it's a lot of money. So, I mean, I think it needs to be spelled out. We owe it to, the businesses in the town to know. They should know. Let's put it that way. I mean, it's their business, they should know. However,
But I think
you
as
know.
Sarah, yeah, Joanne, like as it leaving it with that ambiguous statement about the board can,
No, we can't make any decisions. It's a state law. It is what it is. Those fines are what they are. They're huge. There would be nothing that we would do.
And the health
Listen.
department has the responsibility to impose those fines without any sort of wiggle room. The money comes back to the town. It doesn't go into the state general fund, but the state has prescribed what those fine amounts are, and they're very clear on, or at least we think we've been pretty clear on outlining what they're supposed to be used for, as opposed to the non-crim fines that Zach had brought up.
Yeah, I think it needs to be in there, or he needs to give us like a written reason why they either can't or shouldn't be in there.
which I can't
Which is too
tell.
bad, because now this is gonna be pushed back and,
Back on again.
Right, and Jeff has
Happens
to
pretty
propose.
frequently, though, that boards will hold a hearing over for another month for, clarification, discussion, further discussion, whatever. I don't know if you have any retailers on tonight, but if there aren't any, it might give them another opportunity to, attend the next meeting.
Do we have to repost it then?
I don't think we need to put it back in the paper, but we need to repost it as a continuation of the public hearing.
Okay,
We can check on that.
yeah, but we definitely would have to vote to continue anyway. I mean, it's just that one little section.
Yeah, section S, at least in the tobacco sales regulation. And then I had another question on the ETS regulations, the secondhand smoke regulations. I had one question. Well, I think there's a couple typos in there. Typo number 1 is on page 4. There's section 4, there's nothing next to E. So that should come out, and F should be.
Are we in the smoking in workplaces piece?
Yes, yep. So on page 4.
Yep.
If you keep scrolling down just a hair more, there you go. There's nothing next to E. So if F gets popped up to E.
Let me look in his approved regulate, well, his. He's got E blank in that as well, and he
probably didn't pick it up, and we didn't pick it up before. I certainly don't remember seeing it before.
He actually had redlined out smoking bars prohibited in Westford and left the E, and there's not an explanation why.
Ah,
well,
Did I go back to my whole thing with smoking bars?
but I thought that you wanted smoking bars prohibited.
We do.
We do.
yeah, why would that come out?
I don't know why the attorney took that out, so that's another.
It could be moved up into section C if you want it. That's a more appropriate place for it to be, in section C, where you're, prohibiting smoking in retail tobacco stores and other things. So that's where it would belong.
To section C?
Section 4, number C, or letter C. and it go, you know, it's got the numbers 1 through 7. So smoking bars could be number 8. And then F could pop up to E, and F could be deleted.
Yep.
And on page 5, section 5, enforcement, D, at the end of the first line, it should say, any person who violates this regulation by smoking in a place where smoking is prohibited. We left out the word, somehow we left out the word in, and that was probably our typo. And then G, that's got to be Jeff's language. And I'm not sure where that's coming from. So, can you flip to see his thing?
Let's see.
What are we talking about now?
Section 5 enforcement, the letter G.
Whoever violates any provision of this regulation may be penalized by indictment. Let me accept this changes again on this and see what shows up. Editing.
I've never seen a $1,000 fine for a smoke-free workplace law violation. So if that was there before, I apologize if I missed it or if DJ missed it, but I want to make sure that I mean, I've never seen that anywhere.
That is, again, legal's interpretation. When I
Jesus.
accept this changes, that's what he's recommending.
Okay.
You know, we should have had him come to a meeting then. This is insane. Like, we've been talking about these regulations for months. It just seems, you know, upsetting that he's made all these changes.
Yeah, he did make quite a few changes, but let me also tell you that a lot of the changes that he made, I think are going to be really beneficial to a lot of other municipalities, because KP Law provides services to probably 1/3 of the municipalities in the state. So whatever we work out with KP Law, it will be incorporated in there. If this is something that, you know, that DJ reviewed and thought was fine, okay, I'm very surprised at it. So I want to make sure.
What would be the concern about a $1,000 fine, other than that it's not something we can do?
Well, you can't do it under non-criminal disposition.
Right.
So you would be taking somebody to court and getting a criminal complaint. I don't know.
And isn't it saying that the court is going to impose it? The
Not
court may
sure.
may
I'm not
see
sure
fit
that's
to impose a maximum penalty. I don't understand.
Yeah, and I have never seen it. I mean, first of all, the smoke-free workplace law generally enforces itself. There's not a lot of enforcement to it. People haven't been violating it, really. You know, there haven't been a lot of violations. So, you know, so lower fines have been perfectly fine for the 12 or 13 years the smoke-free workplace law has been in effect. So I'm just kind of shocked that it's up to $1,000, and maybe
But the way that reads, I think, is saying that the court would potentially impose that.
I guess I've never seen that language in any regulation, so it may be perfectly fine, but I'm not an attorney.
I think it would be effectively irrelevant from our perspective, because it has nothing to do with our board. It's what the court
It's what
may
you're going to court.
do.
Right, but I'm, you know, I'm not not sure that you want something in your regulation that is unenforceable. I'm assuming it's enforceable, but you know, I've never seen it before.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So that was the only other question that I saw just going through it real quickly. So I'd be happy to send these regulations now that they're all cleaned up. And this is the first time I'm seeing a cleaned up copy. I'd be happy to send them to DJ Wilson and have him look at them tomorrow and get back to and ask him to, you know, send me an email back and CC Jeff on the email. So Jeff is seeing, you know, exactly what his thoughts are on it. And again, he'd be happy to talk to Jeff at KP Law.
That
Okay.
same, in the other document, under S, enforcement, that exact same paragraph, it is
Right.
number 2,
Right, and
verbatim.
that may just be lawyers speak, and it's probably perfectly fine, but I've never seen that in a regulation. I don't believe it's one of the things that came across in the KP Law edits that we're going to accept and put into the sample, but that doesn't mean that it's not perfectly fine. I just, you know, some of these things were surprising to me, and they may have been in you know, his edits, and I apologize for not looking at them more closely, but I think taking out that chart is really not a good idea.
Yeah, I
I
don't know what
I
it is.
still don't understand this whole thing about bringing someone into court, too.
The only time we would do it is if there was, or the only time a board would do it is if you issue a violation and they don't pay on the fine, then, you know, that you have 15 days to issue a violation from the date of the infraction. The violator has 21 days to pay on the fine. If they don't pay on that fine, generally what I used to do is send them perhaps you forgot type letter, give them another week or two to pay on the to come into the town clerk and pay on the fine. And if they don't, then I would go to district court and take out a criminal complaint, and we would go to court and we would argue the case in front of a judge, and the vendor would be found responsible, ordered to pay the fine, or not responsible. You know, and that's basically how the process goes. I don't think that because the state fines have knocked you out of non-crim, I don't think that process is any different. But I also don't think any health department has gone to court yet on a non-payment of the newer higher state fines.
Would this,
There's been a lot of fines issued all over the state, $5,000 fines all over the state for flavored products. But I think basically vendors have been paying the fine.
would this also be referencing if they, well, because this is in the smoke-free workplace, but you said it's also listed in the other one. Yeah, so clarification on that, because I mean, is it just about not paying the fine, or is it about continued violation? But then that would require us to rescind their license, not take them to court. So
Right, you know, continued violation, if it was the first time and, you know, an agent went back in and the inspector went back in and there was still flavored product, it would be a second violation. Then they'd be fined $2,000 if they went back in and the flavored products were still there, even if it was a different product, flavored products still there, then it's a $5,000 fine. And then, you know, after that, I think that, you know, I think along with permit, you know, permit suspensions and things like that, if you look back at number 3, he says fourth or subsequent offense, permanent or permit revocation. You know, and then he's got failure to cooperate with inspection. We just had an instance of that out at the western end of the state last week, where they refused to unlock a locker where they kept their flavored tobacco products basically hidden. And so failure, so that you know, that would be a failure to cooperate with inspection. So it's not back to the drawing board, it's just a little bit more clarification, I think.
All right.
And I
well, on my-
apologize if we didn't pick it up.
I have on my tablet all of that highlighted with some notes put in right now. So I can go back to Greg Corbo tomorrow morning and get the answers on that.
So what do we need to do to continue this?
I
I
believe you have
believe
to declare
Joanne's right that you have to vote. Somebody has to make a motion, second the motion, and vote to continue the hearing.
Is there someone who would like to make that motion?
I'll make a motion to continue the hearing.
Thank you, Sue. Is any further
I'll second.
discussion? Zach seconds. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Motion passes unanimously. And hopefully we can get with that. Sorry, Jeff.
That's okay. I will find out why Greg did redline all of that information and why he simplified it to the form that he did.
And make sure that we
I'll
get the
send-
flagging bars back in.
Yeah, I'll send these 2 clean copies to DJ and I'll CC Jeff on that so that Jeff can see what comments DJ comes back with. And we'll have a meeting of the minds.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you for
Thank
picking
you
up.
so much, Sarah.
No problem. Hey, you know, you've only been at it a few months. I've had boards that takes them a year and a half. So
Oh.
you're on a fast track here. Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks, Sarah.
Okay. With our public hearing continued, we already did new business. So if there's nothing further, is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Michelle. Is that motion?
The
Is
late
there-
attendee.
Come late, leave early.
Is there a second to that?
We're
Second.
all gonna second. Everybody, every single one of us.
Everybody.
Unanimous
I think-
second.
I think Zach got it first. Yeah.
All in favor? Adjourn.
Right.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight.